Baruch Hashem, recording today's Amud for Erev Rosh Chodesh Shvat. I'm wishing everybody a Chodesh Tov U'Mevorach. Hopefully this all comes out clear in the lobby of the hotel that we are staying at. And Be'ezras Hashem, we are beginning the new parak today, the penultimate parak of Maseches Pesachim, the 9th parak, which is Misha Yatame. We ended off with a couple lines down from the top of Tzadi Beis Amud Beis, which is our Amud for today. And the Mishnah, beginning the parak, begins with Misha Hayatame, somebody that was Tame. Or was distant, was far away. And we're going to have to define exactly what far away means. It says the Mishnah, V'loi asa es harishan, and didn't do Pesach Harishon. Yasa es hasheni, he should do Pesach Sheni. Shagog, what happens if he was mistaken? He didn't know that it was Pesach. He made a mistake. He got the dates wrong. Or nenas, or he was prevented. Somebody forcibly prevented him from observing Pesach. He was in prison, whatever the case is. He was unable to get there. V'lo asa Harishon, and didn't do Pesach Harishon. Yasa Sheni, he too should do Sheni. And there's an interesting discussion in the Achronim. What exactly is the difference between the first clause of the Mishnah and the second? Yeah, you have the Torah explicitly tells you Tamei over Derech Chayka. Those are the only two heterim that we have, the only two instances that you have Pesach Sheni. But the Mishnah includes also Shagog and Nenas as times and places that a person would do Pesach Sheni. Says the Mishnah, Im Kain, if this is so, Lama Nema Tamei. Why did the Torah tell you specifically the case of Tamei or Derech Chayka? Because these two are pater from kares, and be kares, and these two are going to be chayiv in kares. And we're going to have to discuss and define exactly what that means. That these are pater and these are chayiv. But okay, says the Gemara as follows. Itmar, it was stated as follows. The person was distant, was far away. And he's got some buddies that said, your uncle's not going to be able to make it. No problem. We will include him in our Korban Pesach. We're going to include him. We're going to shech for him. We're going to do shikha for him. If he makes it, Baruch Hashem, he makes it. And if not, no go. The Rashi over here points out that what exactly does this b'derech chayka mean in this context? So the Shachtav Zarka Allah la'erev v'la'erev yavai, and that night he's going to show up. Mikol Malcolm who nevertheless he is still distant, meaning even if he can show up that night, he's too far to get there for shchita. Ta'inu kol sheish shas, all 6 hours ad shkias hachama. Those 6 hours until shkias hachama, but he could get there by the time Yantav starts by shkias hachama, which is going to be important, as we'll see in the up and coming Amudim and Dafim, that might not be unanimous to all of the opinions in the Gemara. Nevertheless, with regards to this guy whose buddy is doing him a favor and is including him in Korban Pesach, Rav Nachman says, Hurtza, it works, no problem. Good to go. If he makes it in time, he made it. Great. Even if he was far away, meaning he was outside of Yerushalayim at that point in time. Rav Sheshes says, Lo Hurtza, no, doesn't go. Is not going to help him. Rav Nachman says it works. Because the Torah is having mercy on him. The whole institution of Pesach Sheni is in order to ensure that somebody that didn't have the opportunity to bring Korban Pesach is able to bring Korban Pesach. VE of it, which means that if it turns out that you did have the opportunity to do so Tavalav Bracha, good for you, excellent. You'd be able to, meaning you weren't sure if you were going to be able to, you're not sure you're going to be able to make it, you're not going to be able to make it, I'm not sure what's going to be happening. Baruch Hashem, I made it. Thank you to my friend that shechted Korban Pesach for me and did tzrika for me, and everything is good and well. Tave alav bracha. But Rav Sheshes says, it's not going to work. Why? Because the Torah compares two categories here. The Torah compares somebody that's b'derech chayka to somebody that is tamil nefesh. And the same way that a tamil nefesh cannot somehow or another become not tamil nefesh on Erev Pesach. He needs a full week and hazah and shlishi and shvi in order to become tahor, in order to bring Korban Pesach. The same thing is true of the person that is far away. The person that is b'derech chayka is not able to change his status. Once you are b'derech chayka, you are not shaykh to Korban Pesach at all. Pesach Rishon, you have to come Pesach Sheni. You don't have the option. Amar Rav Nachman, says Rav Nachman, Mina Amin Lach, from where do I say to you that if you want to, you can still do it. If you make it in time, you'll do it. Ditnan, because the Mishnah says, our Mishnah says, Misha haya tame, somebody that was tame, always far away, v'loi asa rishon, and he didn't do the rishon. Yasa sheni, he should do the sheni. Michlal, what does that imply? The ibai of it. If he wanted to, he could. Meaning, somebody v'loi asa rishon. If he was b'derech ha'chayka and he didn't do the rishon, meaning you b'derech ha'chayka and you didn't show up, but that seems to imply that you could have shown up. And if you would have shown up, then you would have been able to join in Pesach Rishon. Rosh Hashanah says, would say, Rosh Hashanah himself doesn't say, it says the one, Rosh Hashanah would say back to Rav Nachman, I don't believe you. It doesn't make any sense. Why? The Ihachi, this would be so. Sefer Diktani, the end of the Mishnah, which says, Shogag Nenas, somebody that made a mistake, didn't know when Pesach was, or Nenas, or was forced to not bring Korban Pesach. V'lo Yasa Rishon didn't bring Korban Pesach. Yasa Shasheni should bring the second one. Midiktani v'lo Yasa, but here also it says Shagag Nenas v'lo Yasa. What do you mean Nenas v'lo Yasa? Nenas means you were forced. V'lo Yasa, you Rav Nachman want to tell me v'lo Yasa means that you could have, but Nenas by definition means that you couldn't have, which means that unless the Mishnah is internally inconsistent, the phrase V'loi asa es arishan doesn't mean that you had the opportunity to do so. Midiktani v'loi asa, since it says v'loi asa michlal the ibai of it, does that imply that if he wanted to, he could have? Harei shogag v'harei nenas. That's impossible. He made a mistake and he was forced to not bring Korban Pesach. He doesn't have the option. That is the definition. Ella mezid ketani behadai. So he says instead you have to assume that mezid is also included here. Hachanami, and therefore also in the first part of the Mishnah, oinen ketani behadai. It's also talking about an oinen that is being included, meaning that the Mishnah is including in both cases v'loi asa es harishan is talking about a third category. So when the Mishnah tells us that, according to Rav Sheshes Reed, when the Mishnah tells us that that's one person, is two people, that is a third person, somebody that didn't do the rishon. What's the third person that didn't do Pesach rishon? That would be the oinen that didn't do it, but he could have, right? That would have been a possibility, as per the final Mishnah of the previous parak, that he was allowed to do so. But in all of these cases, Yasa Shasheni. And says Rav Nachman that the second clause of the Mishnah, which is Shogag oy Nenas, Shogag is one case, Nenas is another, V'loi asa es harishan, and that means somebody that chose not to, b'mezid, somebody that intentionally said, I'm not bringing it. In those cases, Yasa Shasheni, he should bring the second one, meaning he's a mezid. He didn't show up. So, okay. Now says the Gemara, Amar Rav Ashi says, Masnisin Nami Daika, the Mishnah is also exact. Diktani, because it says, that these ones are potter from kares, meaning the first three, which is the Tame, the Derech HaChaika, and the Tame, the Derech HaChaika, and the Oinen, those ones are now potter from kares. Ve'elu chayav be kares, and these ones are chayav in kares. Ahai, on which ones? Ile ma shogig v'nenas. If you're talking about a shogig and a nenas, somebody that made a mistake and somebody that was forced, shogig v'nenas b'nei kares. And how can you say that they're b'nei kares? That doesn't make sense. That's not fair. Somebody that is prevented, they tie him up and they throw him in prison, and he's unable to get to the base of English to bring Korban Pesach, and he's in Yerushalayim, and he's not B'derech Chagil, he's not Tamei, he's Nenas, for real Nenas. How can you say that it's Chayav Kares? And I love a Mezid v'Oinin. No, we're saying on the Mezid and the Oinin that these ones are going to be Chayav Kares, meaning the ones that are V'loi Asa Es HaPesach. Those ones are going to be Chayav in Kares. Rav Nachman Amar Lach, Rav Nachman said to you, La'olam amazed l'chudei. No, I believe that that the only person that is going to be Chayav Kares is the person that is mazed, meaning the person. The beginning of the Mishnah doesn't talk about an oinen at all. He's not included in the Mishnah at all. What we have is the case of an oines. What we have is a tamei and a derech chayka and Loi asa es harishon, somebody that intentionally didn't bring Karban Pesach. Uvedinhu, and that makes sense. Di ibayile le meisna chayiv, because logically it should have said that he is chayiv, meaning ibay le meisna chayiv. You should have said he is chayiv. V'hadiktani chayavin, and the fact that the Mishnah doesn't say chayav, it says chayavin. I did the Tani Reisha Pturim. It's because the Reisha says Pturim at the beginning of the Mishnah. It says these ones are Pturim. Tana Sefer Chayavin, that these ones are Chayavin, just to teach the consistency of the Mishnah. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Sheshes, says Rav Sheshes, where do I know my din? Where do I know my din that if you're B'derech Chayka, you don't have the option of showing up? If you could, the Tanya, because we have a brisa that says the following. Rabbi Akiva said, Nemar Tameh v'Nemar B'derech Chayka. The Torah has Tameh and Derech Chayka next to each other in the same pasuk. Turning over the page to Tzadi Gimel Amud Aleph. Ma Tameh Shesiv B'Yad Asas. Just as a Tameh person who could have physically been able to bring Korban Pesach, ve'ino Isa, yet the Torah says, don't do it, you're Tameh. So too, the person that is far away, that can physically show up, Shesiv B'Yad Asas, he would physically be able to show up. He should not do it. He shouldn't bring it. And we will continue with Rav Nachman's retort to in fact, we'll just finish Rav Nachman's retort now. To Rav Nachman Amar Lach, Nachman says to you, Rabbi Kiva letame. Now, Rabbi Kiva is going according to his mahalach. He's consistent to you. The ksava that he holds, ein shechet v'zerek al tamei sheretz. He holds that you cannot be shechet and zerek for a tamei sheretz. Meaning, even though he would be able to do it that night, he'd be able to bring Korban Pesach that night. He holds that a tamei sheretz is tamei to the extent that you wouldn't be able to, even if you could remove the status of tumah. V'anasfira la kamanda amar. But I hold according to the opinion that holds shechtim v'zaychim al tamei sheretz, that you do shechtim, you do shechtim for tamei sheretz, and that would be a person that would be able to remove the status of tumah by that evening. Meaning the reason that a tamei is out of the picture is because he can't fix being a tamei. He can't fix being a tamei at this point in time. Tamei sheretz could. And the Derech HaChayka could. And since somebody that can, according to the opinion that disagrees with Rabbi Akiva, holds that you would be able to do Shechita and Zrika for a Tamei Sheretz, I hold that you can do Shechita and Zrika for somebody that is Derech HaChayka. And Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, we will continue with the next part of the Gemara tomorrow. Everybody should have a wonderful day. Those that are on vacation, hope that you enjoy vacation. And looking forward, please God, to seeing you back soon.